Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera. Saya Ilma, wakil daripada UAC pada pagi ni. So, pada pagi ni kita public lecture yang ke-8 lah untuk tahun ni. So, ini adalah kali kedua kita akan present finding daripada research grant UAC. Sebelum ni tahun 2022 Dr. Diana.
Yes.
So ni presentation finding yang kedua. Untuk pengetahuan juga, untuk tajuk pagi ni, ini adalah tajaan daripada geran penyelidikan USC juga. So agak special sikit lah kita share finding daripada kita punya research sendiri. So saya tak nak lengahkan masa, saya perkenalkan kita punya moderator dulu untuk pagi ni. Dr. Sharifah Muhairah Shahabudin. She's a senior lecturer daripada Department of Political Science, Public Admin and Development Study at the Faculty of Business and Economics, UM. She earned her PhD daripada universiti yang sama juga, UM, fakulti yang sama pada tahun 2014. Following with a Masters of Science in Admin from UiTM and Bachelor's degree in Psychology from Canterbury University, New Zealand. So, tajuk research pada pagi ni juga ada mengena dengan Dr. Sharifah punya research focus, which is Socio-Economics and Social Stratification, Gender, Youth and Development. Dr. Sharifah juga merupakan active member untuk Gender Budget Group and Initiative led by and Gender Consultancy Women Aids Organisation to advance gender responsive budgeting in national policy. So, Doktor, saya serahkan sesi pagi ni kepada Doktor untuk moderate.
Thank you very much, Nurul. Can you hear me?
Okay. Ya.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nurul, for your kind introduction. Assalamualaikum and a warm welcome to all our participants joining us for today's lecture series. As you all know, the title for today is very interesting and very hot topic, which is the hidden load, unequal domestic labor among working couples in Malaysia. Again, thank you again for joining us, and I hope this would be a very interesting discussion because it will highlight the realities of domestic labor that often remains unequal, and it's hidden, just like the title that will be discussed today is hidden. But although it's hidden, the impact of it is actually really big for the well-being, and it will impact the family dynamics, of working couples. So today we'll be hearing from our speaker, Dr. Abdul Wahab, who have been doing this research for a few years and observed the effect of this imbalance in domestic responsibilities. So Dr. Diana, a bit about her, is a senior lecturer in the Department of Decision Science, Faculty of Business and Economics. She earned her doctorate from Leeds University Business School in the United Kingdom. Throughout her academic career, Dr. Diana has focused on applying statistical model to analyze various social issues, such as the labor market, including the gender pay gap, initial career choices, and topics on migration as well. Her expertise has also extended into data science, where she utilizes advanced data science techniques to explore in the areas of social and economic trends. So before we begin, I'll just take a few seconds to go through a few housekeeping items. To make this lecture more interesting and lively, I encourage everyone online to engage actively by asking questions and share your perspective later on after Dr. Diana finish her presentation. When you ask questions, you can either ask directly or you can go through the chat box, which is somewhere down there. All right. And um, I will also, when you ask the question, I would encourage you to state your name and the department or organization that you're from. Okay, so without further ado, I'm pleased to invite Dr. Diana to present her work on unequal domestic labor among working couples in Malaysia. All right.
Okay,
To you, Dr. Diana.
thank you so much, Dr. Sharifah Muhairah. And thank you so much for agreeing to be the moderator despite your very packed schedule. And I
No
really
problem.
appreciate that. Yeah. Before we begin, I think I want to take a small poll, a small poll. Out of all the participants today, I'm not sure how do you want to respond. Yeah, maybe you can just click on there's some button for you to click, right? At least right now, I know that Cik Nurul here is a woman. Dr. Sharifah, a woman, myself, okay. I want to know how many women and how many men in this webinar right now. Can you, I think, Ms. Nurul, can you advise us if the participants can raise their hands or something?
Oh, sekejap ya, doktor.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't plan for this actually. It just... Okay. Okay, if not, then it's okay lah. Yeah. Because I can read the list name of all the participants here. I just want to make a poll. That's okay. I think let's just begin with our topic for today. Yeah, because we have a limited time. So the topic is the hidden load, unequal domestic labor among working couples in Malaysia. So as Dr. Sharifah Muhairah mentioned just now, and also Cik Nurul mentioned that this is, we get this funding from the Ungku Aziz Center to fund us for this project. And I had Isma helping me as an RA that time. And then we managed to get like a few hundreds of respondents. And I would say that this is more like a pilot study in which I try to explore about something to do with some unequal distributions of the house chores, you know. And I remember there was one time in which I went to Bank Negara, and then at that time there was like this one person asked me, why do you like to study on some, you know, stuffs like this, like for example, the unequal domestic labor, the house chores, gender pay gap, and graduates employment, graduates migration, and all that. So for me, all this study, microeconomic study, we look into the individual factors, yeah, and this will help us to understand some of the big issues that we are facing right now. For example, one of my study is on the gender employment and all that. So we are asking the real question here that would impact not only on the individual but also at the national level. So when we talk about this domestic labor, I think some of you might want to ask why we are focusing on this house chores, washing the dishes, vacuuming, mopping the floor. What's so significant about it that I want to bring this to an academic webinar like this? Yeah. So let us, yeah. So let us answer this question. So when we talk about, I want to bring you back to 1975. Yeah, this Icelandic Women's Day off. So what happened in 1975 and why it happened? So on a certain date, I can't remember what date. I think it's 24th of October if I look at this picture. 24th of October in 1975, 90% of all the women in Iceland, they left their home. They didn't go to work. They didn't do any of the house chores. They left their children and they went for a strike. And why they went for a strike? Because at that time, the women were paid 60% compared to men. Yeah, so they were fighting for an equal pay for women, an equal work opportunity, and also for the equal responsibility. And this responsibility including the house chores, because as when we talk about employment, yeah, when we talk about labor, We always talk about labor in terms of the paid employment. If you go to work, it doesn't matter whether it is full-time or it is part-time. You go to work, you get paid, and then you consider that as a labor. But what about the house chores? How about the labor, the energy, and the time spent, and sometimes even include money that you spend to clean up the house, to take care of the children? So all this is usually something that is not really discussed. So that's why the title of my talk today is hidden. So this is some hidden load. Because imagine we compare two persons, okay? So this one person just, focusing on the paid labor, and this one person not only she's doing the paid labor, but at the same time she's also doing the unpaid labor. So for this one person, the responsibility is actually heavier. So what happened in 1975 is these women, they went for a strike, and then they managed to not only gauge the attentions of the of the government, but they managed to do a drastic change in terms of the policy. And I think the year after, they appointed the first female I think prime minister or president of their country at that time. So it was a huge movement. Yeah. So now let me bring you back to our house chores. Yeah. So look at this list. I think this is all possible lists that we have. Like, what kind of house chores do we engage every day or maybe every week? Yeah. So you wash the dishes, and then you clean the refrigerator, and then sometimes you do the repair on the car, and then to take care of the child and the pet also. You have to feed the pet, and you have to clean their clean their things and all that. So these are all the daily chores, and it is not how do I say that? It is not something that we can just put a blind eye off, because it takes energy. It takes time for us to engage in this. And this is something that we have to do no matter what. Because imagine if you don't wash the dish and you don't wash the laundry and all that, you wouldn't have any clean plates or any clean clothes that you put on your body. Okay, so let's talk about this. Why I want to talk about the inequality in the unpaid care work? Because even now we are already in 2024. Yeah, I think this issue has been discussed for quite a long time already. When we talk about the gender disparity, the unpaid care work. So why is this important? Number one is because care work can be considered as civic engagement, even though it is not paid. Yeah, so the unpaid care work is often invisible. Okay, however, it meets the criteria for the civic engagement. You're taking care of the children, you send them to school, and then you clean the house, you prepare the foods and all that. It fosters the social ties within families. It fosters the trust and the reciprocity. Okay, however, it is largely ignored in the civic engagement studies. So it remains hidden. Number two, it is because it is biased towards gender. Okay, so it is been found, it doesn't matter whether it is from developed countries or underdeveloped countries, wherever it is. I found studies from China, from the US, shows a consistent findings on the gendered nature of the care work. Women disproportionately shoulder unpaid care work, which limits their time, resources, health, and hinder their participation in traditional civic activities. Okay, and it doesn't matter whether these women are involved in the labor force or not, they disproportionately shoulder more unpaid care work. And then when we talk about the paradox of the care work, so this is something that that is also one of the main things that we should talk about. Yeah. So while unpaid care work restricts women public participation, it also motivates them to join activism and involvement in social movements to improve family and community well-being. So I think this is more on the positive side. So when we talk about the policy implications, yeah, we have some welfare policies, especially in the Scandinavian countries, that support the unpaid care work. But for our country, I think there's still a long way to go. Yeah, I think Dr. Sharifah would agree with me. And then there is some critique of the existing civic engagement framework. So the traditional framework for civic engagement overlook the labor intensivity of this care work within the families. And usually we just ignore how much time and how much energy the person involved, it doesn't matter man or woman, yeah, the person involved in conducting all these unpaid labor roles. And then, of course, in terms of the social inequality, as we all experience this year, and we know that people with more resources, they usually, they usually outsource the care work to low-paid and marginalized workers. They just pay for some helpers to come and help them in cleaning their house and etc. Even though we think that this is, okay, but if we look at the bigger picture, it actually deepens the economic vulnerability, especially for these low-paid marginalized workers, because they do this for the paid labor, for paid labor, but when they go home, they have to carry the labor for free on their own. So those are the things that I think would lay out the background for this study. Yeah. So since COVID, what happened? So everybody was contained in the house with nobody was allowed to go out at all. Okay. So what happened during those times? We thought that, okay, now that men and women, mother and father, all siblings, brother and sister would stay at home, and they would carry the same weight on carrying the house chores. However, unfortunately, this finding shows that no, it didn't happen. Okay, so during the pandemic, it's actually more women in the UK, they were more likely than men to reduce their working hours. And then there is a study, I think maybe I don't put it here, okay, somewhere, but I found evidence that even when all this, men and women are contained in the same house, during the COVID, they couldn't go out, but the burdens of the care work still is heavily on the women. Okay, and that is during the COVID. So after COVID, what happened? Okay, after COVID, the unpaid labor limits women's economic opportunities, which give an adverse effects on their socio-economic development. So this is one of the things that women have to face. Yeah, they have to think about, I have to care for my children, I have to care for my house, and then they couldn't do so much in the labor market. And then women are also more likely to reduce their working hours. And in the South Asia, it is found that the patriarchal norms dictate that caregiving is primarily women's work. So this is something that we share, in terms of the traditional gender norms. And then the increased demand for caregiving during the COVID-19 has predominantly fallen on women, which heightened their psychological distresses. So while both men and women engage in more multitasking during the lockdowns, the overall dissatisfaction with the division of paid and unpaid labor suggests that the pandemic did not lead to meaningful shift towards gender inequality. Okay, so there is a study on this dissatisfaction. Actually, they look at the satisfaction level and the difference in terms of how many does the male spouse did, how many of the female spouse did. What is the proportions of their house chores division. They find that those with a huge disparity, okay, not only the women but the men, they were dissatisfied, which means that if you are doing a lot of works, relatively more works compared to your partner, you feel dissatisfied. But the interesting finding from this study also say that if you're doing much less, relatively much less than your spouse, you are also dissatisfied. So there is a lot of things. If you're interested, I can share with you the paper. But it's an interesting study, which means that we thought that, okay, maybe when you're doing so little that you don't feel dissatisfied because you are doing, so little. But no, actually it impacted both spouses. Yeah. Now I'm going to touch a little bit on the past research globally. Okay, so women perform approximately 75% of the unpaid work hours, with no country, none at all, reports equal division of unpaid labor. So the proportion is always higher than 50%. So in El Salvador, employed women reported spending an average of 22 hours compared to men, which is 7.6 hours. In Australia, the women's daily unpaid work increased by 4.5 hours, by men increased just over 3.5 hours when accounting for multitasking. And in the UK, mothers were more likely than fathers to adjust their work schedule to accommodate childcare. So this is not just a problem of the Asian countries, because I think in casual conversation, we heard this many, many times. Oh, it's an Asian culture, we are Orientalism and all that, but it also happened globally. So why is it important for us to study about this gender disparity in the unpaid care work? Number one, it is for the community health and sustainability. I don't think it's going to be sustainable, as we can see now, more and more women goes into the labor force. Yeah, so when they continuously face disproportionate share in the house chores, what happens is that it will, it will lead to dissatisfaction, it will lead to family conflicts, it will lead to, health problems among the women and all that. So I think this is, if we don't really do something right now, it doesn't go, it's not going to be sustainable in the future. Number two, I want to talk about this because when we talk, again, I want to say this, yeah, when we talk about the unpaid care work, we want to talk about house chores. So people will just dismiss it. They say, oh, this is just like, we just settle it within the house, within behind closed doors and all that. So actually this topic, there's a lack of recognition, seriously lack of recognition, especially when related to women's vulnerability in health issues. And number three is that it is also often overlooked in the policy discussions, even though I believe that we have done something, but it's a very slow move. So I think, well, when we talk more about this, we can get more attention from the policymakers. So now we want to answer the question, why there is a gender disparity. Okay, so number one, based on my studies, I think number one is based on the gender norms that dictate the caregiving roles. So, when we ask person and they say, oh, it's a woman's job to care for the children. She gave birth, she should take care of the baby, and she's better at taking care of the baby, and she should do the cooking because my mother do the cooking and all that. So it is the gender norms. Yeah. So another thing is also the cultural and also the structural factors, where culture and religion was found to be significantly influence how the work is distributed between the gender. And the cultural expectation is also reinforced by societal belief about masculinity and femininity. So all these are the possible reasons why there is a gender disparity, okay? Because the belief that it is women's work. Now, if I want to relate this to possibly, the reason why it happened is because traditionally, let's go to more than 50 years ago. At that time, there's a very low number of women go into the workforce. So women are staying at home, and so it comes naturally that they're staying at home. They should clean the home, and they should clean the house, and they should do all the house chores, taking care of the children and all that. But now the time has changed. A lot of women, I think the latest I checked is the labor force participation among women is 44%. It is quite high. However, the distribution of the house chores doesn't change much. Okay, it changed. If I didn't say that it doesn't change at all, it does, but then it's very, very slow to catch up. Okay, so what are the implications if we didn't do anything about this gender disparity? One of it is that in China, it is found to be adversely affect the women's earnings and occupational choices, which is logically so, because if you have children, for example, especially small children, you might want to think about, okay, I'm going to take some time off from the labor force, from the workforce. I'm gonna give birth and then take care of my children. But when you come back to the labor force, what you find is that you have already missed all those years in developing your experiences, and then you end up with lower pay. Okay, and then it also limit the participations in formal economic activities. This is a finding from India. And then it correlates with higher levels of psychological distress, especially when both of you are working, but you are doing a lot more than your spouse. It creates dissatisfaction. And then another one is the lack of recognition. So this house chores is something which is invisible, and sometimes you shouldn't talk about it. Okay. All right. So when I started this project, after I lay out all the works and all that, and then I found, the Kazana Research Institute has also done more or less, something related to what I'm doing. But here I just want to lay out what are the differences, what are the similarities and what are the differences. And I think this report is very, very comprehensive. It's a very good report. It's a pilot study by Kazana. They look at the gender equality, the unpaid care work, and the time use survey. So actually my idea to come up with this study came from a study in Finland in which they use the time use survey. And I find that a lot of countries have done this kind of survey. So what is time use survey? So what they do is they ask their respondents to, to record like from hour to hour what they do. Okay, so maybe from 11 to 5 they were sleeping, and then after that what they do and all that. So from this time use survey, they gather this data and they compute how much time did they use for the formal paid labor and informal the unpaid labor and all that. And what they found is that women spend 3 to 4 times more hours on unpaid care work compared to men. And men allocate more time to paid work and leisure activities. And they also found that there's activities which is very gendered. So women are found to be more dominant in caregiving, cooking, and cleaning. Men, if they do the unpaid care work, they are more on home repairs and outdoor tasks. And across the life stage, the young mothers are having the heaviest unpaid workload, and the older women, they continued care responsibility for extended families, like their mothers, fathers, aunties, and all that. So these are some of the impact of this gendered burden on employment. Even among working women, the unpaid care work remains disproportionately high. Okay, so far I show you all these studies, and I find that all the findings are consistent. Gender disparity, it is consistent in across time and across countries. So if we can, imagine this, I need help to clean my house, for someone to come and clean my house, to wash the dishes and all that. And I also need help for someone to come and send my kids to school. So if I pay this person to do that, okay, so this person got paid. Like for example, this person come to my house to wash the dishes, she got paid probably by the hour. Okay, so if I do it myself, so there's no money involved. So now imagine if I do this, I do this washing the dishes, sending my kids to school and all that. If we can compute how much is the value that I should be paid for that, so it actually account to 30% of the GDP if we can monetize this. So that is quite a lot, I think. And also from the Kazana report, why this is significant, it is because the work-life balance, and we want to manage the stress, and also we want to create the awareness. We want to create the awareness of, especially on the gender norms, so that we want this community to be sustainable. Okay, it should be fair. We want to make sure the fairness between all parties. Okay, so what's the difference between this project with the rest that I've mentioned before? So first of all, I want to give a caution that this is a pilot study. It's a small scale study, and we involve only 400 respondents, and all the surveys were done online, because at that time, I think we did it in, the first wave was in 2021. And then at that time, we just, everything started reopen after COVID. Okay. The difference between our study and the past studies is that we are only focusing on the dual earner household. So there's no, in our sample, there's no housewife or house husband. There's only dual earner household, which means that both parties are married, okay, and also they are also working. Okay, so this is very important. Why? Because, some might say that, okay, because she is a housework, it doesn't work. So, I mean, naturally, she would have more house chores to do. So that is another story that I don't touch here. Yeah. So what I'm focusing on is among the dual earner couples. And instead of using the time use survey, we use the chore sharing proportions, in which we list down all the possible chores, and then we ask the respondents to say that, okay, how much do you do? Like, for example, in 1 week, are you doing like 50% of the dishes, and then the other 50% is carried out by your partner? Okay, so we are asking the proportion. And then we also ask about the gender ideology. We ask them about the attitude, the emotional, and their relational impact on the gender ideology. We want to see, is there any, any relationship between what they think and what they do. And then we address the relational conflict and stress and the perceptions of fairness in the chore sharing. So let me talk about a few things on how do we measure the gender norms. So number one is we ask several questions to measure the gender norms, and this is based on the this attitude, these skills, yeah, the attitude towards women's skills. So the question that we ask is this question, which is adopted from the AWS scale. So the ideal woman is passive and obedient. So women should be responsible for nurture and care. Women take care of the children better than men, and women are more loving. Da, da, da. So all these questions are trying to capture the gender norms. We also ask about the sex role egalitarianism scale, which is something like women need to focus more on family, men are more on working, and doing housework is the responsibility of women and all that. So this is like an extreme egalitarian scale. So we ask this question to our respondent. We also asked about the work-family conflicts in terms of the time constraint. For example, like if this is dual earner couple, so they are both working. Okay, so we know that they have time limitation in order, in that limit their house chores share. So we ask them the time constraint, the role conflicts, and also the work priority. Sometimes when you're working very, very hard for long hours, especially, so you may not be able to do a lot of house chores. And then we also take this into account, in which, if your parents are, if your parents are, both your mother and your father are cooperating in terms of the house chores, would it affect your view that the house chores should be carried out by both parties? Yeah. So this one we adapt from the Bandura social learning theory, in which it says that in terms of the role modeling, if you see that your parent is doing this, because among our friends also, we know that some of our parents, some of our fathers are also cooking and cleaning and all that, and also shape their children. So the children, they feel like, oh, cooking and cleaning is not just like a women's job. They can also participate in those activities. And these are the questions that we ask on the model for the future behaviors. My mother does all the work, or my father does all the work, and my parent didn't let me do the homework when I was little, and etc. So all this is trying to measure this emotional and the relational dynamics of the housework sharing. Another one is in terms of the equity theory. So this one I try to measure the satisfaction level, among the both parties. So in the equity theory, it says that individuals will try to strive to maintain fairness in social exchange. Like, for example, right now we have this one couple, husband and wife. Maybe during the initial phase, one party is doing more, the other party is not doing so much. But because of the equity theory, eventually they try to converge so that they have an equal fairness in terms of their exchange. So this is what being brought up by the equity theory. So we ask the questions related to the conflict and stress, the satisfactions and the perceived fairness, and also some guilt and emotional accountability. We did ask this question, and also the self-sufficiency and independence. So these are all the questions that we asked our respondents. So the survey was collected between, the second wave was collected between 2023 to early this year. The first one was in 2021. And then the survey, the latest one, which addition of items, contains 400 over respondents, but we filter out some of the respondents are not married, you know, they are not working and all that. So we'll filter them out. So we only have dual earners, married couples. So the survey questionnaire was distributed in 3 languages. I have my students to help me with this. So we have Malay, English, and Mandarin, and we have like quite good proportions of all these, you know, languages. So we have 14 type of house chores and 5 type of parent chores including like soothing your baby when they are crying and then feeding them and then send them to school and all that. So we also add a question on the traditional gender norms, the work-family conflict, the model for future behavior, and also the equity question. And we add in some control variable here. So let us see. So this is the finding. I think this is where everyone is really interested in looking. The black dot is the proportions by women, the women respondents in our study. And the gray dot is the proportions of house chores, which is carried out by the male. If you look at this, we find a consistent finding, isn't it? So this is like proportions. Yeah, you have 0% until 100%. So 0% means that you didn't do at all. Okay, 100% means that you are the one who do it all the time. But 50% means that, okay, half of the time I do it and half of the time my spouse do it. So now let's look at the proportions of women. So, women are at a higher proportions than men consistently, except for a few things, which is number one is the bills. You can see that bills, okay, mostly men, okay, the head of the family is paying a lot more, okay, a lot of them answer this here, and women a lot less. And also another one thing is in terms of when it comes to repair, okay, when it comes to repair, I think close to 80% of the men did it, and then 40 over something of women did it. Yeah, so it doesn't mean that women did not do any repair job. So repair, including they send the car to the workshop to repair. Okay, so you don't have to really get into the car and then doing the stuffs. Okay, so this is how it looks like. And now if you look at the chore sharing in terms of child, you have to wash the child, you have to, this is for children under 7 years old. Yeah, so you have to wash the children, okay, send them to shower. This one is transport, this is soothing them when they cry, you know, and you have to send them to sleep. And cooking for the child, we see that women are much more than men, and the disparity is even higher when it comes to children compared to the house chores just now. Yeah, except for the transport, in which even for the transport, even though women are less than men, but the difference is only very little. So the finding from our study actually shows a consistent result with the previous study. So now I will go next to the remember when I said that I want to ask questions about the emotional, relational dynamics of house chore sharing on the gender norms and everything. So we have like several questions to try to measure these gender norms, family work conflict, parent, and equity. Parents means the role modeling behavior. So we did first, we ran this internal consistency reliability. We find that all the Cronbach alpha is more than 0.6, which is very, very good. Okay, it shows some consistency in the question we ask. And then first is we look at, next is I'm doing the factor analysis. And first is I look at how much variance is explained by how many factors. So if we see here, the first factor, it contains most of the variance, and there's a huge jump from the first factor to the second one. So I try to simulate between the 3 factors and the 5 factors, and end up I choose to have these 5 factors in the study. So all these 5 factors account for 64% or almost to 65% of the variance in our data. Okay. And next is we look at the commonality. Okay. So here I show the first 3 factors. So the first factor is in terms of the, I think, time-related conflict, which is item number 1, sorry, time 2, time 3, and culture 3. And then the second one is the measure of the gender ideology, okay, and the family dynamic and etc. So let me just go to, this is in terms of the commonality. I think I want to talk more on this ones. Yeah. So this is the factor loadings. So we can see that time 1, time 2, time 3, and time 4, they're all explaining all this measure for the time-related conflicts are actually measuring, the conflict in the unpaid care work that is related to the time limitation. And the second one, 5 out of all the 6 questions on the gender norms are actually measuring the traditional gender norms. So this is the second factor. And then we see the rest of the factors, there's some cross loadings between items. So I think that's why I say that this is a pilot study which gives us more understanding about our data. So we can, we can improve on this, and then probably in the when we do a large scale study, we can know what items to ask to measure all this. Yeah. So we have a family dynamic, and then we also have one factor on the satisfaction and the well-being. And then another one is on the family related norms. Yeah. So if you want to check again, what is this time 1, time 2, and time 4, we can go back to the question that I asked. So time 1 is something like this, like my working hours are very long. After work, I have no energy left to do homework. I'm busy with my work because earning money is more important. I can only do homework during the holidays. So these are all the questions or all the items under the work family conflict. And this is the reasons of whether they contribute more or less on the house chores division. So these are all the 5 factors, and we see that the higher score, okay, is on the gender norms, okay, and then we have this family dynamic here, and these are all the items. This is the family norms, satisfaction, which is consists of 2 questions, and the time-related conflicts, okay. Okay. So next is I use the scores on the house chores, and I do different models for women and men. And this is based on the regression model. So we have all these 5 factors here. And then at first, before we do this, we construct some summary statistics here. So we understand that both women and men, they perform house chores, but women's score are consistently higher across the quartiles. And the distributions of chores for women appears to be more concentrated in the upper range. It is after the 3rd quartile compared to men. And in terms of the childcare, women's score for childcare are slightly higher than men with higher median. Okay, this is because there's only like 5 scores. And then a significant portion of both distribution appears to include the scores of 0, suggesting that not all respondents have childcare responsibility. So based on this regression on the left, the table on the left, these are some of the key takeout. Yeah? So the time-related conflict appears to be associated with reduced contributions to both chores and childcare, especially among men. So the first model here is women, the house chores score for women, and this is women in terms of the childcare. The third model is the men's chores, and the fourth one, the last one, is the men on childcare. Yeah? So we see that all the time-related conflict actually reduces the contributions of chores, and this happened both on women and men. Now we look at the next one, which is the gender norms. So the gender norms generally predicts greater involvement in both chores and childcare, but the effect is less consistent among the men, which is model 3 and model 4. So this is very interesting finding actually. And then we look at the family dynamic. Family dynamic shows a positive predictor for both child and chores and the child care scores, but its significance varies among men. Yeah, I need to let you know that the proportions of men and women we have in this study is quite proportionate, where I think about half, a little bit more than half, is actually women, and but it is proportionate. I mean, we have like how many we have just now? Almost 400, right? So around 200 are actually women, and a little bit less than 200 are men. So actually we get a real representative. And then in terms of the dissatisfaction, Okay, the dissatisfaction mostly predict less involvement, which means that it might be the other way around. Yeah, but now we are not doing the causal analysis, so we just say that if you are dissatisfied, and then you will probably, okay, so what it means here is that dissatisfaction is also associated with less involvement in doing the house chores, except for model threes, yeah, except for men in doing the house chores. So as we expect, age predicts lower involvement in childcare, which means that probably because as you grow older, your kids are also going, growing up, so they can take care of themselves. And then the household size is a positive predictor of childcare and sometimes chores. As you have more people in your home, you'll be doing more. Okay, so in terms of income are associated with less involvement in house chores, possibly because you outsource to someone who you can pay to take care of the child or to clean the house. And in terms of the spouse higher income, okay, we not only look at your income, we look at the spouse income. Husbands, this is not true for women, yeah. So husbands higher income negatively impacts chore score, which means that this is only spouse where the husband's income is higher. So in this case, it reduced the chores. But if the other way around, the wife earns higher, it doesn't. There's no finding on that one. And of course, higher education correlates with less involvement in chores, but more involvement in the childcare. Yeah. So these are, I think, this is the main content of my presentation today. Okay, I'm sure many of you want to ask more on this part. I welcome all your questions. And let me go towards the conclusion already. So this is the implications on what we can think of. Yeah. So we have found consistent evidence that women are doing more and that this kind of work, the house chores, are invisible work and all that. So what are the implications of this? Number one, we can think of in terms of the gaps in policy. Yeah. So there's no mandatory paternity leave. And I believe that it is very important during the first few days or few weeks of after birth. Yeah. This is when mothers needs the most help from their partner. Okay. So because there's no mandatory paternity leave, it fails to encourage fathers to share the caregiving responsibility. So imagine if, every time after birth, this woman have to take care of the baby on her own while the father goes working, or the women will ask the family members to take care of the baby. And then, you will assume that, okay, the father can just continue doing the work, not really caring for the baby. I mean, not really like that, but you understand what I mean, right? It's like the main responsibility is on the mother. Okay, so I will, as a husband, I will focus on work. I bring the money in, and I will just become the helper when you can no longer do the job. So we need to change that. Yeah. And then another one is we look at the elderly or the elder care subsidies, because we understand that women sometimes, I say women in general, yeah, but I do believe that men are also involved in this. So they have to care for the children, at the same time they have to care for the elderly, their mother and father, and sometimes their uncles, their relatives as well. Yeah. So because of the lack of elder care subsidies, so how do we want to support this household with aging dependents? And the third one, I think is very important, is limited availability of affordable and high quality childcare services. Okay, even if a lot of childcare services, when a lot of things we can say about this. So I'm going to leave it all to you to probably discuss with me later. So these are some of the recommendations which I think what I, or even if anyone wants to collaborate on this one, yeah, these are the things that I would recommend to do. Number one is go into the details on the gender norms influence on the divisions of domestic labor over time, especially. I think it's very good if we can look at, from the 50 years ago until now, you can find the data on that. It will be interesting to show how it evolved over time. Number two is we can do is see the impact of the flexible work arrangement. After COVID, one of the best thing, one of the good things happen is that, you know, in terms of work flexibility, it helps a lot, especially those with childcare and all that. Yeah. So flexibility of the work arrangement, remote work and parental leave policies and etc. And then it is also important for us to really understand the socio-economic, cultural and regional factors that intersect with the gender disparity and to quantify the economic value. I think a lot of studies have done this, yeah. They try to quantify, like I mentioned to you just now, if I pay for someone to come and help me clean my house, I have to pay them. But if I do it myself, there's no money involved. But if we assume that there's money involved, how much is it? Yeah, so we need to quantify this economic value. And also it brings to the question, like, you know, husbands needs to pay for their wife for doing the house chores. I think this is something maybe Dr. Sharifah Muhairah will share later. And then I think we also important to see the long-term effects of unequal chore sharing on the children's perception and their gender roles and their future relationships, because we want to have a sustainable community. So if we continue with the dissatisfaction and unfairness, I think will lead to a lot of, you know, a lot of, yeah, not so good things. Yeah. So I think I finished early, but I think I leave a lot of rooms for discussions, for questions. If I think that I can answer them, I'll try my best to. Otherwise, maybe I can ask, you know, yeah. So yeah, I'll give it back to you, Dr. Sharifah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Diana. Very interesting sharing. Thank you for sharing the details with us from your findings. I'm waiting for questions. If anybody is interested to know more, I'm opening up the floor for questions, either in the chat box or live. You can just ask here. You can raise your hand or you can just switch on your mic and ask questions. I'm checking okay, there's a few here. Okay, so we have a few interesting questions lined up from our participants. Let me start with the question by Shi Shuen Lok. So the first question is, what do the high scores of gender norm means? Could you share again what the correlation is with the outcome for the survey on unpaid care?
Okay, thank you for that question. I think we are going back to high school gender norms. Okay. High school gender norms. I think it's this one. Okay, is it this one? Yeah, oh, sorry. Okay, I think it is this one, yeah. So this one, gender norms, is the scores on what do they think about the gender norms. For example, some of the questions, I go back to the questions, yeah. Some of the questions are asking, let's go back to the traditional gender norms. So this is the question. So women should be responsible for nurturing and care. Women should take care of the children. Women are more loving. Women, okay. So these are all the, I think let's look at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So these are all the items to construct the gender norms. The number 6 was removed. Yeah. So all this, if they score high on that, it also shows that they will score more in terms of their involvement in the house chores. Like, let's look at this one. It is denoted as F2. Yeah. So F2 is very high coefficients, and it is positive for both chores and children, which means that if this is among the female respondents. Yeah. So the female themselves think that they are more loving, nurtured, they should take care of the children, So if they think that, then they are also result in having more house chores. Okay, but men, if you look at men, okay, in terms of chores, it is not significant, but the sign is negative. Okay, but in terms of the child, yes, it is significant. So, which means that okay, for these men, they also think that okay, women should take care more of the children, but they also take care of the children. So, if that is the question that you ask, yeah.
Right. I think that answers the question. Same. Another question by Shi Shueklok. Is there a way to recognize domestic and care work as part of the labor force? Instead of always saying we need more women in the labor force, is there an alternative way of it being included as part of labor force?
Okay, I think this one we have to ask the person really involved in the study of of this gender study probably. Probably Dr. Sharifah, you are more of an expert in this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying that whether care work can be part of the labor force. Um, when you talk about labor force participation, like what Dr. Diana said, there have been ways of putting value to the work, the type of work that they're doing, such as cleaning, and all that, putting value. There have been, but that's the maximum that has been done so far, but not to an extent where it has been included part of the labor force. Because as you know, in gender studies or whatever, we have, reproductive sector, productive work, as well as community work. So there's three different sections. So reproductive work falls under this category where care work is, and productive work is paid work outside the household. So there's already a segmented sectors for all three types of responsibilities. So for now, to answer your question, domestic and care work, when you talk about household work, is actually not part of the labor force. Not unless if you're working as domestic helper or nursing, part of care work, done professionally and being paid, that's part of labor force. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Right? You want to add anything, Diana?
I learned from you actually. Yeah,
Ah.
I also yeah, that is what I know also. Like some studies have tried to quantify it, but there's no such thing that it is already integrated in the computations of the GDP. It's just like a simulation. Yeah, that is as far as it is being done. I agree with Dr. Sharifah on this one.
Another question from Rubia Ajan. I think it's another good question. The division of house chores and unpaid care labor in Malaysia often falls on women, disproportionately on women, which impacts their economic opportunities. And given that the care economy is vital, not only for economic growth, but also the well-being of Malaysians, how can gender-sensitive policies address this imbalance in household responsibilities?
Very interesting question.
Oh, sorry, another one.
Sorry.
Okay, what sort of gender-sensitive policy can address this imbalance in household responsibility, and what concrete steps can be taken to ensure that women and men share equal workload?
Okay, very interesting question. Okay, so I want to relate to my other studies. Now I'm talking about the gender disparity in unpaid care work. I also did another study on the graduate gender wage gap, which women, okay, when we look at this graduate employment data, yeah, so if you go to any university, just choose any universities, you see that there are more women in the university compared to men. If you look at the population is around 50-50. There's a 49-51, but it's balanced, yeah. In terms of birth rate also, there's balance between boys and girls. But we go to university, we see more women. actually there are like more like 60% of women and 40% of men. But when it comes to employability, men gets more work. I mean, gets men are more employable than women. That's one thing. And even if these women, they go into employment, they consistently get a lower wage. Yeah. So it's like, I think when we talk about this gender, is a very huge issue. We talk about the unpaid care work, we talk about the employment, we talk about the wage and all that. So some people say, oh, of course women earn lower because, you know, they are doing all this, they're working at the shop and all that. And men, they go to do this uh, dangerous jobs and all that, which pay them more. But my study, in the other study lah, on the graduate employment, is actually looking at this homogeneous group, this same group of people with the same qualification, which means that I'm comparing a graduate, for example, Bachelor of Engineering, women and men both earn the same, I mean, both have with the same qualification, but still, my finding shows that, because this is based on the national data, my finding shows that women earn lower. So of course there's some more sensitive study which I need to do, like I need to analyze, okay, what kind of job do they have and all that. But all this are telling the same story. And when we want to make a policy recommendation on this, we need to really look at the bigger picture. Okay. And if you ask me, what are the policy that has been carried out on this? I would say that there are some, okay, there are some, but it's not really aggressive as we hope it to be. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Jayana. Probably with that, I can expand a bit more on the gender sensitive policies. Okay, if we take into account Malaysia's policies when it comes to care work. Now, the government, especially in the recent budget, is shown that, government are looking into, subsidizing childcare and encouraging employers to have childcare centers or subsidized childcare for their employees. This is to actually encourage women to go back to work, and they have so when this kind of policy has been done, but the situation now in especially in the developing world, the situation is tougher, especially in the patriarchal community, where especially in developing world, where money or funding for subsidies is not consistent, whereby government do actually help out, but to a certain extent. Another area that probably gender sensitive policies can look at is the paternity leave. Now, maternity leave, we know that we have about 90 days, but paternity leave is for government is only 7 days. And for private organization, is not mandatory, but mainly companies give about 3 days for men. So this can be looked into, because like what Diana actually mentioned just now, if you increase paternity leave, number one, this may actually help women in terms of their duties at home, responsibilities that lessen the burden at home. Number two, when you increase the paternity leave, in terms of the father, will have more time with the kids, and this will inculcate relationship with the family and all that, especially the bonding with the child. So this could be done. The only problem is I see with all these gender sensitive policies, which involve something like paternity leave, companies would not be that happy. Private organization, especially businesses, they're not happy because you're taking time off. The staff are taking time off work and more leaves are given to them. So, at the end of the day, this could be a problem for private companies, or organizations. So this is the only thing. But I would think that paternity leave would help. And another thing, sorry, awareness on the hardship of labor and taking care of a child. This has not been addressed, and it should be part of education, because a lot of children, growing up seeing this, uh, they don't understand how much sacrifices or energy or time is taken to do this. They see it, but they don't understand the value of it. So it should be brought into this idea should be brought into even in education, where you talk about family values and all that. So it will be good to talk about it, so that all this can, you have more balance, um between men and women. They know what actually care work is. All right. I think I've taken more time than you, Diana.
No, no, I agree. I very much agree with you, the Sharifah, because the first thing that we need to change is our thought toward this, toward this perception that we think that it comes naturally. I mean, sometimes this kind of how do I say this? This kind of perception, it comes naturally. Like we think that naturally, because our mother take care of us, our mother is more likely to wash us, to send us to sleep, and to feed for us and all that. So we think that naturally is always the women's work. So this kind of awareness is very much important, especially with the changing structure of a family where both parents are working, So once we are aware, then we know that, okay, we should actually carry this responsibility together, not like I assuming that this is the women's job and the man just act like a helper. So what usually happen is that I hear this a lot, yeah, where men, they say that, oh, I help around, I do help around. Don't say that I don't help at all. But then the woman say, but it is not enough, and the men wouldn't understand why it is not enough, because I'm doing this stuff. So by when they are discussing this, actually what they don't understand is that everyone assume, even the women, as we can see from this data, the women themselves thinks that it is the women's main job to care for all this, and the men are there to help when these women fall. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think we start, before we change the policy, we need to start with the awareness at our level.
Yeah, true. Okay, Rubia. Again, Rubia has another question, following up question, where she said, what else needs to be done given that women's representation in policy making is low? So the top people making the decisions are mainly men. And what else can be done? And what are the existing gaps in the social care that needs to be addressed? Other than this, in terms of social care, what needs to be addressed?
Mm.
Yeah.
I think this is interlinked factors, yeah. So when we talk about childcare, like Dr. Sharifah mentioned just now, we need to have more, facilities for the childcare, as a lot of women go into the workplace now. So we need somewhere, we need to send our kids to go to school, to go for the childcare. So that is one of the things that we should think of. At the same time, we understand that now with the lower birth rate, yeah, and we are going into aging population, and because of the advancement in the healthcare facilities, we are getting healthier. So we are living like we are getting older, and we will stay. How do I say? We will live for longer compared to the previous generation. So we need all these measures right now. Right now, we have to forecast. We have to think about how do we want to care for all this before we actually arrive there. So if you want to compare, I take example between I take example in Japan. Japan is an aging country in which the compositions of the older people is much more than the compositions of the younger people. So what's going to happen in Japan if they don't do anything is that all these older people who need the healthcare facility, who need supports from the younger population, yeah, so it's going to, create chaos in their country. So we are not yet considered as aging country. So we're still in the middle. So this is the right time if we want to take all the opportunity to forecast what's going to happen and then to get ourselves ready to face that. Okay, so that is one thing. And if you ask me what more can be done, and I agree with you that the top positions, the decision makers, the policy makers, the decision makers among the policy makers are mostly men. You just look at the parliament. So I agree with that. So, okay, one thing that we can do is just continually voicing this out. Continue voicing this out. I wouldn't say that we should go and do like what the Scandinavian women did in 1975, but we have to voice out, we have to create this awareness. We don't want a policymaker just sweep this under the carpet, think that, oh, this is house chores, this is something that shouldn't be taken into account in doing the policy making and all that. I think we are slowly going there, but we should be a little bit more aggressive, I think.
All right. Thank you very much, Diana. I have another question. Oh, okay. I have if you don't mind, I have a question as
Sure.
well, Diana. You mentioned that one of the characteristics of your household is that you look into the number of children in your household. How big is your household? Right? Did you find, among the married couples, if you compare the married couples with bigger household and a larger household and a smaller household, do you see more inequality in terms of distribution of work than domestic labor work in the bigger household compared to the smaller household? Or
Yes.
did you see anywhere? Can you
Yeah.
expand on that?
Yes, it does. Okay, interesting question. Actually, I want to do more in terms of this study. Yeah, because I was afraid because my slide is already going like 30 something. So I was afraid that I may not finish it in time. So I removed all those parts. But yes, it did. The gender disparity when it comes to the number of household is become larger when the number of household become bigger. So women, they bear more burden compared to men, especially in terms of the chores. But when it comes to these young couples with children aged 7 and below, actually in terms of the childcare, the disparity is not so much. Like both the women and men, they take care of their young children together, even though women would score higher. But when it comes to house chores, actually, the bigger your household are, the bigger the burden and the bigger the disparity between men's burden and between women's burden of house chore compared to their spouse. Yeah, and it is also related to the age. Yeah, so when you're younger, actually, you care more. This is between for both men and women. You actually do more chores, especially on the children. Okay, but as you grow older, you are less likely to actually actually do this house chore. This is probably because of, as your child grow older, you don't have to feed them, you don't have to, because they are already independent.
Yeah, this is an interesting finding because something that is important for policymakers to see, because they're always talking about poverty, they're always talking about bigger household, um, uh, you know, that larger household actually tends to be poorer compared to the smaller household. This is in general. And another part of it that they don't see is the burden of the care work in the bigger household. So, probably we can think about, government can actually think about, or policymakers could think about how do we tackle this burden among women living in this bigger household or larger household. Let me see. Since we do have time, I hope you don't mind me asking another question.
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah. I would like to hear from others as well, especially if you are working with,
Oh
those.
yeah. Do you have any Oh, okay. You're welcome, Shahrul. Shahrul said thanks for the great share. Do you have any other sharing moments or experience?
I
Uh,
think Hafsah here
Yeah.
raised her hand.
Good.
And testing, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, lovely. Okay. Interesting. If I can just bring up one of the findings from Dr. Diana, when the highest scores on gender norm, and I think it's very much related to the earlier discussion, based on the question by by Rubia Ajan. And there were two things, two keywords, I think, that I just want to focus on. One is when Dr. Diana said thought, and the other is education from Dr. Sharifah Muhairah. So if you talk about thought, gender norm, it means that something has to be done on the mindset, correct? And there is such a thing now that, there's these keywords that's come up from what is mindset is about mindset. Mindset is about mind sight and mind works. And this involves a mental process. And this perhaps goes to education on how we think, our psychology, and maybe policies can look at, how to tackle from that angle. Because I think this is also very much because of how the entire community and how we went through life has developed. And you can't just stop short somewhere and change everything. You can't. I think it's going to be a continuous process. And it's true that when Dr. Sharifah Muhairah mentioned that, there are incentives provided to fathers for a number of days that you're given to spend with newborns, and also childcare leave perhaps, but that's just not enough. And the other aspect is how this is going to influence the younger generation, because if the changes that is made at that point in time is not significant and impactful, you don't get the outcome that we are looking for. And I guess I'm talking from a span of uh, being a baby boomer. So I'm currently a grandmother, and I'm seeing that, it's a struggle. I still am a working grandmother. But yeah, I can also feel that there is this terrible and long time needed, or very much needed, for changes to occur. And as long as we don't have the right mindset, we are not going to be able to churn out the right mindset and the right mind to work and involve in this mental process and develop from there. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very
Yeah.
much,
Yeah.
Hafsah. The comments that you made are really relevant. Probably Diana, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I thank you so much, Puan Hafsah, for the very thought-provoking sharing. Yeah, and to hear your own reflections. You have said that it's been years, that you face all this. It's very interesting. It's just that I think about when you say about the first step that we need to do is changing the mindset. So how do we change the mindset of the population? Okay, so when it comes when you say that, I remember I always like when I scroll through social media, I always see like on Instagram, Twitter, there's a public health posting. They are not very active, so they always like make a posting on, okay, we should take care of we should do this, all this mundane stuff. But I think this is one of the things lah. I'm not sure if we want to go to the more effective measures, but I think this kind of things is actually helpful. A small reminder that comes from the public health department to say that, okay, if you're feeling tired, you have to stop. Don't get burnt out at work. You have to go and walk. So something like that. It gives us some reminder, and slowly, if we keep sending out this kind of awareness, and then collectively, when it comes to many sources, and we start talking about it, I think on Twitter and all that, I've seen some changes in terms of the perceptions among women and men on this matter. And we're talking about different generations, like the from the baby boomers, and then the Generation X, and now millennials and the Gen Zs. Yeah, so I see there's a difference in terms of the perceptions of this house chores responsibility between the late generation and the new generation. I think the new generation, they are more like participative in the house chores. Yeah, I think it's a great movement, but it should start with a mindset. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with Diana as well, and Puan Nafisa or Nafsa. You can see that there's a progress in the mindset of the younger generations. Definitely, it's a progress, but although it's a slow progress, at least it's a progress, because if you can, because this generation has more exposure to media, exposure to how things are done outside. And when you talk about mindset also, you have to remember that sometimes we talk about changing the attitude of the man, but the woman's attitude needs to be changed as well. Because
Agree
women are
on that, Doctor.
trapped. Yeah, women are trapped in thinking that it's their duty, they have to do it. And if they don't do it, they feel guilty because it's part of their job.
Mm.
But they don't think that, actually it can be shared, because now you're sharing the burden of productive sector, which is outside. You're working outside as well. So the mindset of the women and the mindset of the men would need to change, especially the women, because sometimes women, they just give in all the time because they think that it's part of their work. There's no negotiation. And the progress, the awareness also, I think a lot of, in terms of awareness, a lot of NGOs are doing good jobs. Non-profit organizations, women, WAO and all that. They're doing a JAG, they're doing a good job in giving this awareness to the community. They start small. Sometimes they start by community, and sometimes they influence the policymakers as well. As you see, under this government, there's a lot more. They are opening up. The government is opening up to ideas from the civil society. I know civil society can actually give their inputs and all that in the parliament. Before the parliament starts, during the budget, before the budget, they will put in. They are encouraged to put in their thoughts and minds on the real situation of women issues. So it's a progress, definitely, but a slow one.
May I add?
Yeah.
Sorry, am I interrupting?
No, go ahead, Afsa.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of you, Dr. Sharifah and Dr. Diana. There has been changes, correct, and also positive, but I don't know if it's just me, but I've also observed that the younger generation wants an easier life. Actually, there is a word for that, and this was also used or expressed in what is known as Society 5, this Society 5 is actually a Japanese concept, which is somewhat taken up globally. But I can't recall that word. I mean, it's a word that really describes the fact that um, it appears that there is this idea, or the idea that you just want to live life in an easy way, and getting everything, including a material wealth, as well as easy life. Of course, in Society 5, they talk about smart and so on and so forth. So I am worried that the younger generation translates smart as being you don't have to work, you generate income, and why bother with having children? That kind of that I hope that is not emerging, but there are signs, towards that, especially when there are lots of movies, and again, social media is kind of suggesting that. What would be your thoughts, Dr. Sharifah and Dr. Diana?
And then we go first, or?
Yeah, may I? Okay, Puan Hafsa, actually, very much agree with you. I haven't seen any research, any academic research on this, but this is just based on my observations. It's true. Even if you look at the statistics of the fertility rate is decreasing very much. And then a lot of people choose to remain unmarried, and even the married ones, they're divorcing, and then they're living a single life. We see these trends now. It's increasing, and then children choose to have much less children. Now they're having two. That's too much, they think. And then even if not two, just one children is enough. And most of even among my friends, they choose not to have children, because we can relate this to many factors, as you can see. The increase in the living cost, the increase in the house, in the home ownership. I mean, the price of the house, the living cost, basically overall increasing the price for foods and etc. So, and the income doesn't increase so much, and I think even the minimum income remains stagnant since 10 years ago. So because of all these reasons, because there's no more, all these limitations, they think that they couldn't afford to get married. And even if they get married, they think that they couldn't afford to have children, because children is not just about having money to the cost to have a children, but also in terms of the energy and time, which they think they don't have. So I'm not sure whether they want to have an easy life, or they are restrained to not having this, not getting married and not having a children. So so I mean, yeah, I see the trends as well. Dr. Sharifah, maybe you want to add more?
Yeah, again, very interesting discussion. Okay. When you're comparing the Gen Z, or not what is the latest
Millennial,
one? There's
alpha.
Alpha. Okay,
Yes.
you're comparing Gen Z, Alpha compared to, I'm a baby boomer as well. So this definitely you see an evolution. Because I keep on telling my children, I think all of you are born with microchip installed in your brain, because everything that they do is very fast, and everything that they do, I guess because they're exposed to technology, so everything is fast to them. So that's why I think, Puan Hafsa, you were talking about easy way out, less work. They want to get things easy because everything comes to them easy. All right. And because everything comes to them easy, plus the fact that now children are more educated, women and men. In fact, in Malaysia, we have more graduates that are women than men. So they see potential to actually, have a career, career progression now. And because of this, some of them may marry, some of them may not marry. Just like what Diana said. Some of them choose not to marry or have children because they choose career over everything else. And some of them that do marry, they want a quality life. So they have one child or two children maximum. Now it's about 1.8 in Malaysia, right? The fertility. So so now you're talking about quality versus quantity of children. So quality work versus quantity of work. So now the younger generation, yes, they do see it as an probably living a more quality life by because everything is at the tip of the fingers. And this could result in lesser number of children because they want quality for their children, quality life for the children and themselves. So I guess it's an evolution. To answer your question, Puan Hafsah, it's nothing to worry about because it's an evolution. Things are changing very fast with technology and all that. So the way we are brought up, the exposure that we have, the environment that we have changes. And people change with the environment. So probably for us, the baby boomers, it's a big change, it's a big leap. But for the younger generation, it's something that they grab and go. It's part of their life. I hope that answers your question, Puan Hafsah.
Yeah, thank you for the discussion. Yeah, there's a lot of things to think about, and like what Dr. Diana said, there's no research done in that area,
Yeah.
and to get to the research is probably going to take a few more years, but maybe I don't know, maybe risk assessment has been done. What will happen in 5 years, 10 years, and so on and so forth. Know that everybody right now is working on SDG, ESG, and certainly a family is really a building block of a society. And if that is not right, that is not corrected, and I wouldn't say that. If that is not laid on the fair principle, you can't produce fair results from it. I mean, we're not going to say that we want, everything to be, it has to be balanced. Balance is probably a better word. If that little building block is not balanced, it's going to be very hard to build a bigger society, or a bigger society comprising of many, many building blocks. Probably is not going to be fair or balanced if the unbalance or imbalance is higher uh, than the balance, the balance building block. Basically, I guess we see that all the time. I'm not worried about what's coming to the future, in the manner that will we achieve this balance? Will we be able to sustain, or it will take time, I think. Not I think, based on history, based on the life that I've gone through, and very true, Dr. Sharifah. For us, like baby boomers, we have seen quite a bit of changes, and we are smack right in the middle of this interruptive, technology. We have the selain daripada SDG or ESG, we also have this IR4. And industrial revolution has a great impact on society.
Yeah.
And this is where the Society 5 comes in. And you're absolutely right. It's all about technology and the changing in technology. This is where maybe those people, even before the generation before baby boomers, perhaps, or baby boomers like us, some of those who never got the opportunity to receive education because of some other factors, are struggling with the technology that we currently have today. So the education providing education to this group of people, of course, outside of our topic today, is also very important because, I mean, there are so many things going on, including the use of this technology, and you can just get scammed and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So kesian lah, to this huge group of people who are so scared or so scared of using technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what can we do to help them? I'm sure there are groups looking at this. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you. I don't maybe I'm taking too much of your
Oh,
time.
no, it's okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Time is good. We're supposed to finish at 12:30. Do we have any other question? Any other?
I think Shishwen, you raise your hand.
Yeah, yes, yes, sorry, let me just. Yeah, thank you so much for this fantastic piece of research, Dr. Diana. Just a bit of introduction. My name is Xuan from Lead Women, and we mostly work with the private industry on women leadership and gender equality. So recently we have actually launched, or will be working in a program with UN Women. Savanya, actually, I got this invite from UN Women. And they were actually quite interested. So I was attending this. Next year, we're running a campaign called the Gender Action Lab, which specifically targets the unequal care burden for women in the private sector and kind of working together with certain organizations on how can we actually address this. Because over the years, right, it's always running back to the same topic. Women are always saying, oh no, I have like responsibilities and I drop out, and it's been just the same circle over and over again. So we'll be working on this next year. I'm really interested to see how I connect with you, or can I get a copy of this study, open access. Another one that I was really interested in, I'm not sure if this was in the chat, was the baseline study you were saying about the graduates in the wage gap and opportunities. I think that would be great as well. If there's any way we can kind of like get a copy of that so that we can study it. Yeah, so if I can connect with you, that would be fantastic, an email. And then thank you again so much for this, because we all know that there's a huge data gap when it comes to gender equality
Yeah.
and equity in Malaysia. So really doing great work lah. Thank you for this.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Yeah, thank you
Thank
for
you,
the kind
Xuan.
words.
Yeah.
And yes. Actually, as an academician, when we get to work with someone from the industry, I think that is the best because we're not just like limit our findings, our research to the academic journals and all that, but we want to see how it can give an impact to the real world. Yeah. So this is I don't put my email here. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
was about to say, I think I better put your email.
yeah. Thank you, Dr. Sharifah. Yeah, get in touch with us, Shishran, and then we can discuss about this. Yeah, a lot more. I mean, in terms of the gender pay gap, yeah. So I did my PhD based on this chapter, actually. I did a study on graduate labor market in Malaysia. I look at the employment, I look at the wage gap, I look at the migration and etc. And I do look at the gender differences as well. So I've published a few papers on this, and also I think my thesis is available to download. But yeah, just contact me. I can give you all the sources.
Boleh, thank you. We are also trying to do our own study on the gender wage gap and also percentage of like senior women in Malaysia, because when we actually Google, right, we cannot find all these statistics, or at least not credible sources. So we are also trying to like work together with Siri and ASB to see how we can also fill in this gap for gender data. So it's very nice also to see all these emerging data points coming in different industries that we can leverage on together. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And okay, I come from a more statistical background. So when I do analysis, it's always with the data. I do analysis on the data. But you could also ask Dr. Sharifah, which is an expert in gender. She knows a lot about about the policies and about the theories, which I think would also help. And if let's say you want to conduct your own survey, you want to conduct your own study, and you want to develop the survey instrument and all that, I think you also need that kind of expertise to help you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana, for the very
Yeah,
kind,
this is interesting.
kind words.
Yeah, I like to reiterate what you said, Dr. Sharifah, regarding that the women themselves think. So here we don't say that, oh, the men think that it is the women's job. The women themselves, they actually think, oh, I should do all this. If I don't do the 100%, I will feel guilty. I will feel that I'm not a good mother. I will feel like I'm not a good sister. I'm not a good daughter. So actually, personally, it also happened to me, I feel like, okay, naturally it is my job until I reflect again and I ask, is it really my job?
Yeah,
So yeah, this
yeah,
awareness, this thought, this mindset needs to change, for both parties.
yeah.
Mm.
Very true, very true.
Mm.
I'm opening up some more
Oh,
questions.
sorry, Dr. Sharifah. Okay, to Miss Xixuan, yeah. Actually, I want to add this to you. Maybe we can discuss about this later. But the main interesting, future research that I want to do is I want to study, because consistently I find a huge gender gap and employment gap among the engineering graduates. So among any other graduates like economics and all that, it's not. There's some change. Sometimes women earn more, sometimes men earn more, and all that. But they're more likely almost the same, but except for the engineering. So this is I would say this is one of the research that I want to venture into, if you want to look at this lah.
Would you say that women graduate in higher rates from STEM, but somehow their opportunities and wages are less than male
Correct.
graduates?
Correct.
Interesting.
Yes. Very unfortunate, right? You
Yes.
spend, you study hard, you get into STEM, and it's
Yes.
not easy to get into STEM, and then but
And
there's
also
something that I want to understand.
everyone is also saying, oh, we need more women in STEM. Kenapa tak ada females? Inilah
Betul.
kenapa
Ah,
sebabnya.
May I offer a thought with regards to that? Because over the years, I've also been thinking about, why is it that we are getting more and more engineering graduates, female engineering graduates, and yet it is not easy for women to actually embrace engineering, the engineering disciplines when it comes to employment, or even sustain in those type of employment. I'm just wondering if, there is such a thing that we will have to admit or accept the fact that there are limitations there are some limitations but we not necessarily look at it as limitation. I'm using the word limitation just to bring up the fact that there is a difference in the sense that women can't carry just a simple example. You can't carry X plus Y weight, whereas you can carry X weight. Okay, let's just say quantify in terms of kilograms. So that is inherent for a female. So maybe in engineering, we have to really look at what type of engineering is suitable for the women and what would not be. And therefore, the focus to generate graduates in engineering would be to supply for the types of tasks that would be more suitable for the inherent qualities of a female compared to men, and we leave the more demanding, physically demanding and long hours and so on and so forth for the men. Not every woman will be able generally to adopt and adapt to certain conditions, like being in the middle of the ocean, doing drilling, or example, or in the middle of the jungle, unless this is already in a situation where everything is safe, everything is highly technological, highly assisted with technology, that you do not have to use or it does not demand certain a certain activity from a female that would be beyond what a female is capable of doing. Do you get what I'm trying to say? I'm
Yep.
using so many words on this,
No,
but
no. Yeah.
yeah. But
Good point.
basically I'm sorry, Dr. Sharifah. Basically, I'm saying is that if we recognize that, similarly for the male, there are certain things they can't do. And it would also be true for certain things female can't do. So if we plan in such a way that um that certain jobs you would have more female engineers, and certain jobs you would have more female, I don't know, maybe females are better at doing certain jobs. As far as I know, female are great at doing almost everything, unless there are some physical limitation. But women are in everything. Um, and again, it goes back to mindset. Thank you.
Thank you. Diana?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, very interesting. And I like your last statement, Puan Hafsah.
I get what you mean by certain jobs probably has its limitation for women, and certain jobs have limitations for men. Okay, one limitation that I know we have is physical strength.
Mm.
That goes without saying.
Yeah.
We're born with different ability in terms of strength.
Yeah.
But a lot of jobs that you see now, women can actually do due to technological aid. Even engineering, I mean, I have family members who does really hard work, roll up their sleeve, kind of work to go, she's an engineer to go into construction and all that. But I think it's more of discrimination at workplace more than anything else. To me, physical limitation is adjustable because of technology. To me now is more of, like you said just now, is the mental, whether the mindset, whether people can accept dealing with women in in such precarious jobs, or technical job that requires them to be analytical jobs kind of thing. It's the mindset, and sometimes this mindset leads to discrimination at workplace, which limits their opportunity to be in STEM. So this is especially true among developing countries. In the culture as well. So that's why you see there's a lot of brain drain happening among the scientists, the technical, even among women who are really good in STEM. They don't see a progression in career in Malaysia or in many other countries. So they go out because out there, the discrimination against women in STEM probably is much lesser compared to in developing countries. So really, in terms of, like you said just now, Hafsa, women almost can do everything because we are born to multitask. So it's a matter now whether the mindset and the culture has, could actually accommodate women, because this would lead to discrimination at workplace. Okay.
May I add to that, Dr. Sharifah?
Yeah, sure.
If we say that certain jobs are not suitable for women, yeah, I do understand that because biologically we are all different. Especially when women get married, they become mothers with small children and all that. Yes, for certain jobs. But I always see this changes, yeah, nowadays, even though it's not many. But I've seen small body, small frame women, small frame girls driving a very huge truck across there's some places covered in snow, where very thick snow. I'm not sure whether it was Russia or in the US, but yeah, this small bodied girl driving a huge truck. And then I've seen some women doing this dirty and dangerous jobs and all that. So like you said, like you both said, that women can do everything. Yes, we can do everything, except for the little part in which probably is really not suitable for us. But in most cases, that is talking about the rare cases. But in most cases, whatever that men can do, we also can do. So what hinders us? Why is the disproportionate number of women in those, in those places? So I think it has something to do, again, the keyword today, I think, is the mindset, is the cultural mindset. Is a male dominated culture. You go there and then people perceptions, yeah, they think that, okay, this kind of job is not suitable for women, I wouldn't give it to you. Okay, even though I know that you're capable and you're eager to do this and all that, but I don't give my trust. I don't trust you carrying out this job, so I would rather trust men. They would carry out this job. So I think this mindset needs to change, yeah? And then also, I remember last time, like Puan Hafsah said, that we encourage a lot of women. I remember previously, I think about 20 years ago, not so many women actually went into engineering. There was only like one or two in a big class, But now we see more women than men in the engineering classes. So what happened? So what we try to do at that time is that we try to encourage women. We see that, okay, there's a lack of engineering women out there. So we need more female engineers. So we asked them to take this STEM course. It didn't work. So why? So that is the thing. I think it engage for more research to be done, because we really want to differentiate. Is it because of the preference? So maybe women themselves think that, okay, even though I'm STEM graduated, but I don't think I want to work that, because I let my husband to do all those, kind of work, but I would rather have more time for my children. Even then we have to think that, does it, like, why do you have to take care of the children and you let your husband climbing the career ladder, right? So, and the other story might be discrimination, because the employers doesn't trust the women to carry out the job, because of the cultural perception, because of the workplace. Let's say among this office, a lot of male engineers, they don't think that you're in the in group. So this kind of things that we need to disentangle lah. Yeah, that's my piece. Thank you.
Yeah. So we have another 9 minutes. I'm opening it up to any more feedback, sharing. Just now Puan Hafsah was saying about mobility, right? It just hit on me that there was a study done by EY, Ernst and Young. I think it was 2010, 2012, quite a long time ago. They did it globally. Ernst and Young did it globally. The question that they asked women is, why do you feel this? No, what was it? What was the reason why you cannot progress in your career? Something like that. And then the biggest number one reason is actually mobility, because the boss always wants them to be there when they need them. Right here, right now. Meaning, I want you to travel, or I want you to work late. I want you to do this and that. That requires them to work over and beyond their time and traveling and all that. This has actually made women less attractive in a way to hold the job. While men, they can just drop everything and travel anytime. They don't need consent from the family. While women will have to go back and have to think about, how do I put the children? Where do I put the children? Because you're in charge of the children, right? Who's going to send the children? Who's going to cook? Who's going to do this? While men, they can just drop things and
They
let
can
the
just
women
pack up
handle.
and go.
Yeah. So this is number one enemy, so to speak, for women to climb up the career progression, especially when they have children, where mobility is a problem right here and right now kind of situation. Yeah.
Yeah, true, Dr. Sharifah. And hence, rather than rather than we need to confront it openly and
Mm.
kind of acknowledge the fact that yes, that's the case. And because in a way, if we look at the nature of children, because of during after childbirth, the baby would spend more time with the mother, and particularly for the first 2 years, probably breastfeeding and all that. There is a very special relationship between a mother
Mm.
and a child. So again, the father can't do that. So nature kind of already prepared us for some differences in abilities between the woman and the man. So if I think if we accept that, then we will be able to realize that we can grow and we can prosper, we can contribute to the economy of the country, the world. We can do a lot of things. Women particularly is multitasking, as Dr. Sharifah pointed out, and men are more specific in their jobs, maybe for a reason. So maybe it is also a good thing to explore those avenues.
Mm.
Maybe. I mean, these are all the things that we need to lay out and really look into it and understand what is it nature is trying to tell us, and work on nature. Rather than, I know that we believe, I'm a working grandmother. I was working before, yeah, also in the engineering field. But at some point, I will sit down and I feel that, yeah, I have limitation. Yeah, I need to accept that. But then I look out to see that this limitation may have a meaning. For example, like we spend 2 years breastfeeding. But when you're working, and the hustle of actually expressing the milk while you're working and trying to look to make sure that you're being fed with your milk and not the
Yeah.
formula milk and all that. I mean, it adds stresses, but we have to face it. But how do we face it? Maybe this is what radar comes in. How we believe, how we define radar, and how we believe in what nature has given to us. I don't know. That's another aspect. Maybe we need to consider. I'm just throwing it out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
To
Yeah.
reflect on that, yeah, Puan Hafsah, actually, my late mother always tell me of her childhood story when, during those time, during my grandfather's time, they have children like at least 7. So they can have like 8, 9, 10, 12 children. And women usually they stay at home, and then they every 1 or 2 years they give birth. And then my mother's childhood was pictured like this. They wake up and then they just go to the river, they play there, and then they can just go roaming in the village, and then sometimes they don't even go back home until dawn. So what they do is that they'll just, it was a safe environment for them. The whole community, they know each other. And then there is a village to raise up children in a safe environment, everyone knows each other. And then sometimes the neighbors will see these children, and they ask them, okay, come, and then take some food, and then they feed these children. So it doesn't matter whose children it is. So there's a close-knit community. So yeah, at that time the gender roles are very different, where women, mothers, staying at home doing the cleaning and and this kind of thing, and men are the one who goes to the farm, and then yeah, but a lot of change since then. And thank you for giving me this perspective, because it's always, when we progress, we always have to look back at at what is before, and then are we doing the right thing? So those are the question, I think, important question that we should ask ourselves.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you. I mean, this has been a very interesting discussion. Thank you very much for all of you, Puan Hafsah, Shuen, and the rest of you here. There's too many of you for me to mention one by one, for taking the time to be here to participate. I wish we have another 1 hour, but we don't. I have another 2 minutes, so I have to end the session here. But regardless, I am more than happy, we are more than happy if, you want to come, drop us a email to talk to us more about study, give us some thoughts, or you want to know about our thoughts. Please contact us or Diana or me, whoever, both of us, to talk more about this issue. All right, thank you. And I think I'll pass the mic again to Nurul to end the session.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sharifah. Thank you, Dr. Dana. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for today's session. Still need everyone cooperation to open up your video cam so that we can capture this moment. Shall we? Okay. So, Fadli.
Can we open, because I like to see, oh, okay. All right. Oh, hello.
Sekejap. Kita bagi semua orang buka dulu, boleh? Okay. Fadli, boleh tolong ambil gambar?
Dah boleh ke? Okay, ready semua? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, sekali lagi. 1, 2, 3. Okay, terima kasih semua.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for staying with us for half an hour,
Thank you.
1.5 hour. Thank you, Dr. Sharifah, for being the moderator, and also Cik
Wonderful.
Ilma. Thank you.
very much.
Thank you sangat,
Thank you for
Doktor.
your
Thank you sangat, Dr.
invitation.
Sharifah.
Thank you.
Thank you.